MiningClips here in San Francisco at the Silver and Gold Summit with Peter Spina. He has GoldSeek and SilverSeek.com. Peter, good to see you.
Good to be here, Rob. Thank you for having me back on.
So I want to kind of cover the waterfront with you. We've got probably the easiest place to start is Trump, year in. Probably a good time to give him a report card. A lot of policies in play, a lot of deregulation. Equity markets are flying, gold's been hurting. How do you kind of see all this?
Well, Trump has brought back confidence from the business community, which is very good to see because, coming back to America from Europe after a few years, you really see this country has so much potential. The infrastructure, there's so much energy here, but it needs to be unleashed, and people have been so beaten down by growing regulation, higher taxes. So Trump back in, I think he's helping bring confidence back from the business community, and we're seeing that reflected in the stock market, business confidence, consumer confidence, and it's so far good. I don't know. We'll see what happens with the tax cuts here. I haven't followed it close enough to see how the Senate will end up voting on it, but it doesn't. We'll see if it doesn't pass, then we'll watch out. Gold could really take off on that, but I think overall, Trump is he's been a he may have actually done more to please other groups who hate him originally, and then I wonder when the 2020 election comes around, he may actually get a lot more votes from those who were talking so negatively against him years ago, as he helps to give confidence and give incentive back to the business community and help the middle class and recognizing some of these problems. I don't think I have plus and negatives about Trump, but those are some of the positives I see.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how Goldman Sachs, who just lobbies against him, literally hates him probably, has literally made billions of dollars since he's been elected.
Yeah, well, they don't have him totally under control, although I feel more and more that he is being controlled by the swamp. He's surrounded by it, and as many things as he said during the campaign trail that I was hopeful that he could change. I don't think it'll be that easy or possible, but those that are against him, they're doing very well with him in office, so they may end up donating to his campaign, although I think they'll have another candidate they have more under control.
Yeah, they always do. Let's kind of move on to the metals here. Really a topsy-turvy ride, ups and downs. Again, the markets are all-time highs. The dollar goes up, gold goes down, vice versa. How do you see this whole sector?
It's a difficult period to be a gold investor because the sentiment is so negative. We've been beaten down for the last several years, so it's almost difficult to recognize that there is some positives happening in the sector. The price of gold is $1,250 to $1,300 recently. It hit almost $1,350, $1,400. We hit a technical resistance. I think we're going to retest that this year. Next year and then break out to higher highs, but I don't think a lot of individuals see that the precious metal market is starting to lift off this bottom. It's not that exciting. It's not really making big moves. The volatility has been dead for the last year, and the mining stocks haven't reacted yet to it. But this is a time to be looking at which companies will outperform in the next bull market leg higher, and this is an excellent time to be positioning for that. It could be a month from now, it could be a year from now, but I think we are lifting off the bottom. And sure, the stock market hasn't fallen more than 3% from its record highs in the last year. It keeps going up. Real estate, everything's going up. And gold and silver are not as appealing, but as a contrarian, that's great. Everything that underpins the fundamentals of the gold and silver bull markets are there. They're growing. They're becoming more positive by every day. But I would say one thing with regards to Trump: if he does bring confidence in these tax cuts happen, or just general the economy starts to grow in a more meaningful way, we have trillions of dollars sitting on banks' balance sheets. The velocity of money has been going down for years because the money hasn't gone into the system in a meaningful way. It's kind of crept into the stock market and real estate, but in the actual economy, it's not as active. The velocity of money is dead. So if we start to see that take off, well, inflation could really rage in a big way. So that's their problem, is if the catch-22 is the economy starts growing, inflation takes off. If the economy doesn't grow well, the deflationary pressures are a problem. And then we go back to negative interest rate policies and start talking about rate cuts and the next quantitative easing. And Fed Williams from San Francisco had said something last week about targeting some sort of income for the I don't know. They're thinking creatively because they're stuck. This next recession, this next correction, they have very few tools to really combat that, and that's where it starts to get scary because they haven't allowed the debt to resolve itself. Compared to 10 years ago, everything's we're 20 plus trillion in national debt. The balance sheets of individuals, nothing's really gotten better. Sure, we feel more wealthy because the stock market's gone up, but the valuations of stock markets are not appealing. What happens if the markets fall 50%? All this it just feels like bubbles everywhere, and eventually the next bubble will be in the precious metals because the general markets, everything else will have had their time, and then everyone will look, where's next? And then such a tiny market, it won't take a lot of capital to get this going.
So what are some of the catalysts you see? I mean, we've been playing this game for years. Central banks control everything. Now I'd say probably more than ever we have the greatest risk of world war. Mm-hmm. It doesn't seem like it's really priced into this deal at all.
People aren't paying attention. I mean, for right now, I'm concerned what's happening in Saudi Arabia, but most people don't recognize the risk that this repatriation and this power struggle fails. And how does that relate to the petrodollar? I mean, does the whole petrodollar fall apart if Saudi Arabia, this coup of sort falls apart? I mean, there's a lot of risks in the Middle East. So there's Russia and China working with BRICS and trying to have a balance of power or to push back. And with the Chinese yuan, they're trying to float that and make it an alternative to the U.S. dollar. There's a lot of geopolitical things going on, and people don't recognize that because they're so blinded by the easy money in the stock market. Everything seems to be functioning fine, and the complacency levels are very high, and that's a very dangerous sign if people aren't acknowledging those risks. None of those may ignite gold in the near term, but eventually something's going to trigger it, whether it's the fall of the U.S. dollar starts to fall because of the yuan starts to become more competitive, or the economy doesn't seem to grow anymore, and the Fed starts cutting rates, saying we're going to create trillions of more dollars. It'll eventually happen. There's no doubt that this fake economy, this fake monetary system that they keep patching up is going to need another round of patching, and like we've seen in Japan, and the Europeans are still doing it. I mean, they're just printing units in the trillions right now, and there's no free markets, there's no balance, there's no proper balance. So the markets are so imbalanced, and unfortunately they can get a lot more imbalanced, and things can get a lot more crazy before things start to really break. So
yeah, certainly really just an interesting time to be alive. All right, Peter Spina, goldseeksilverseek.com. Appreciate the insight.
Thank you, Rob.